Hello and welcome to week 12. So hopefully you enjoyed getting into the domains section of the course in the textbook last week and doing something a little bit different by doing your journal. So I'm really looking forward to reading your first journals on physical development in young children. And so you're going to find that the next couple of weeks are going to follow the exact same pattern. So this week we're moving on to the cognitive domain. And so that is one of probably two of the domains where parents seem to be most focused. They want to make sure that their children are considered smart, which is such a relative term, especially when we get to the creative domain and we start talking about how children are smart, and because they're smart in different ways. But when we look at the milestones, the cognitive domain really focuses on math, science, and social studies. And so that is what you will cover when you take CHD 146. But it really is going to be the one domain that is focused on a lot of these probably what we consider more of the school age skills. Now, that does not mean that we are trying to skill and drill our children to death, but what it means is that in math, science, and social studies, we should be preparing them for what is going to be coming when they get into their school age years. So we're not going to be teaching 4-year-olds geometry, but what we can do is make sure that they are familiar with the different shapes that are out there. Same thing goes for counting. Children aren't going to be ready to add, but we do want to make sure that they understand number concepts. And that really is what we're focusing on the cognitive domain. So when you look at the milestones for the cognitive domain, I just wanted to point out that they are kind of special. They look very different than some of the other domains because you are looking at 3 distinct categories of knowledge. So the cognitive domain not only is set up by strands, but they also have substrands within each of these strands. So you can see that strand 1 is learning about math, but there are actually 7 substrands that go in the math strand. So we have numbers and operations, measurement, patterns and relationship, shapes, spatial sense, data collection and analysis, and time and sequence. And so all of these are going to fall under strand 1, learning about math. And then they break it down by the ages. And then we get to strand 2, which is learning about the world. This really is going to be the science section. So there's only 2 strands or 2 substrands in this particular strand: scientific knowledge and scientific inquiry and exploration. And so if you look, you're going to see, especially when we look down at the younger children, demonstrate curiosity about the natural environment, enjoy games of repeated hiding and finding, uses senses. So you can see that we're really not trying to jump too far ahead with their knowledge. What we are trying to do is get them familiar with their surroundings and with the things that they are going to be using when they get into their older years. So this is science. And then you get to strand 3, learning about families and communities, and this is going to be the social studies section. So you can see that there's 4 substrands: history, geography, economics, and families and communities. And again, it's on their level, it's developmentally appropriate, but it is such a solid foundation in what they're going to need as they get older. So looking at things like identifying and describing characteristics of own surroundings and geographic region. That could be something as simple as, what are the things that are around us? We live close to the beach. Just trying to make them aware of, again, geography. History, we're not going to be teaching them about the Civil War, but we can talk about daily events. Artifacts reveal information about the past. Engaging in storytelling about past experiences. So really what I wanted you to see from the cognitive domain, especially in the milestones, is one, it's set up really differently. Because it's three distinct bodies of knowledge. But two, really to understand that we are just meant to provide a foundation of knowledge. We are not asking them to get into the higher level thinking. So when you look at our page for this week, you're going to see that, again, we're looking at the cognitive domain. And just like I said, it's going to follow the exact same pattern. So the cognitive domain is chapter 12. So make sure that you read that and review the PowerPoint. Here's your one video that you need to watch for the week. And then, just like last week, you're going to write another journal. The journal information stays the same. The half of it should be, what are your 5 biggest takeaways? And remember, I am not looking for bullet points. I'm really looking for a discussion of those 5 big takeaways. And then the second part should be, how are you going to use this information? So I've already linked this to the journal, but remember, they are found also in the quizzes if for some reason it doesn't open up for you. And then finally, just remember that your observation is due next week. So make sure, if you haven't already set that up or gone to do it, that you are getting that done fairly quickly, since it is going to be due at the end of next week. So have fun learning about the cognitive domain of development. I just can't stress enough that this really isn't meant to be where we're talking about all of those higher level skills that they're going to get when they're in elementary school and middle school and high school. This is, we're giving them the foundation so that they will be successful when they get there. So I will see you in week 13. I'll be working this week to get your schedules graded, but continue to keep up the good work. We are getting very close to the finish line.